Hi there. I thought I would take a moment to show you how you can make a little bit of changes to your Google form, such as design and breakout. Now, the design is a little self explanatory. We're going to talk about how you can change the look and feel of your Google form aesthetically. But then, in terms of breaking out, meaning where based on a selection or answer that the end user uses, where are they going to go from there? So we can branch out of sorts so that they are receiving the questions that you want them to see. So let's take a quick look at the design to start things off. To make any modifications for your design, you can click on this palette. When you look at this palette, you can change the header, the question, the text, change it to whatever kind of text that you want. This is all of your standard Google type. Let's say I pick this one. You can change it so that it's a bit smaller, the header, if you didn't want it to be as big. The questions, you can again change that to different, let's say we want to do this kind of font, and I can make it a little bit bigger. Same thing with the text being the questions themselves down in here, like the answers. So that's what you can change as well. Let's say I want to match it still with the question, and I want it to be a little bit bigger, and I can do that as well. Okay, let's now talk about in terms of colors. You could just change the colors here to the theme so that it automatically reflects here in the background. You can also add an image. So to choose an image, you can choose a bunch of different themes here that's built into the Google form, or you can upload your own photo. Now, I just use Canva. I love Canva, and if you use the Google Classroom banner, that works really nice. So let me grab one for you. So I just uploaded an image that was downloaded that I created in Canva, and this kind of relates to my topic of sorts. And you'll notice that my theme automatically adjusted based on the coloring of my photo. It then adjusted here. I am not stuck with using those photos. You can adjust them here. Not only can you just use some of these default ones, but you could also change it to a color here by clicking on the plus sign. So you can choose a palette and then add that color. All right. So those are all your, so I'm going to cancel to that, and I might just change it so it's a little more opaque, that background. And now we can move on to the questions themselves. So of course, within my Google form, I would then create a Google form description. I want to be detailed as to what exactly, why I'm doing this survey and what am I going to do with this data collection. Okay, so we want to make sure that when people read this, they realize it is for, let's say, a survey for a course, and you want to analyze the data for whatever reasons. Let's move on to branching out. So let's say very quickly, if someone smokes, I may have different questions for them versus someone who does not smoke, basing it around smoking and exercise. So to do that, I'm going to branch out, but I'm going to show you how to do that by going to these dots here. And while I'm here, I'm going to show you this description piece, meaning I could even put in here, so do you smoke? So maybe somebody who only smokes occasionally, let's say on the weekends or when they're out with friends or whatever the scenario is. So maybe they're not too sure whether to answer yes or no. So we could put a description in here. It's like, even please choose yes, even if you just smoke occasionally. Okay, and we'll fix that spelling, and there. So next, I want to branch out. So going back to these bottom three dots, I'm going to go to section based on answer. Now, right now, it's going to continue to next section because that's it. There is no other sections, but I'm going to change that in just a moment. So before I do that, I also want to make sure that this question gets required. The reason why I make this required is because if you're going to base the next questions on these responses, then I need to make sure that they are required in order to complete the survey. Now let's make some sections. To do that, the bottom right part, here's the equal sign. Looks like an equal sign anyways, but it really actually is a visual for sections. So I can now put in a section here for, let's say, smokers. And let's say create another section for non-smokers. And when you're looking at these sections, these are just spots where you can add more questions. So you can easily add more questions here, add more questions there, and then you can decide, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, where do they end up after they're done this section. So before we do that, let's go back to adjusting this question. Because if they say yes to smoking, we want them to jump specifically to the smokers section. If they're non-smokers, we want them to go to the non-smoker section. Now, if I were to leave the default here after section 2, you're going to continue to the next section. So then they're going to still get to the non-smoker section. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So we need to change that to submit form. So we have submit form. This one will default to submit form because it is the last section. So let's see what this looks like if we were to actually share it out. So if I click on the eyeball here, it does a preview. And now I have this preview that you can see. Do you smoke? If I choose yes, it will go next and it'll take me to the smoker section, and then any questions related to smokers I would be able to answer here. I can go back, and if I say no, same thing, I should now see the non-smoker section. Not to say that after they've answered some questions under each section, that you still can't go back to another section where the questions are similar to, regardless of whether they smoke or not. So I hope this helps in terms of your design and your layout of your Google Form.